Good morning and welcome to series 4 of our frequently asked questions series. Number 4 today is going to be looking at the assessment process to become a foster carer, and it's something where we see there's quite a lot of anxiety about often, and a few myths as well. So today I thought I'd just take you through the process that we ask prospective foster carers to go through, just to try and allay any fears and explain why we do what we do. I suppose just to set out right at the beginning, the whole reason for the process being as it is to try and ensure that we have the safest, warmest, most nurturing families putting themselves forward to become foster carers. Children have already been through enough difficulty, trauma and loss that actually, the last thing we want to do is to add to that by putting them with a substitute family who aren't going to meet their needs and who aren't going to understand them or be able to work with their families or help them keep in contact and all those other important things that we need foster carers to do. So the reason, running right through all the reasons for everything that we do in the foster care assessment process, is the need to keep children safe. So we start off, if you're interested in becoming a foster carer, you might phone us up or you might email us and express your interest. You might ask some initial questions. That's absolutely fine. We're always happy to answer anything. If you'd still like to go ahead and we haven't managed to put you off at all, we come and visit you in your own home and we talk to you a little bit more about why you're interested, why now, what your family makeup is all about, what experience you might have with children. You don't have to have had children of your own, but we would like you to know what a child looks like and, be able to have some experience of working with children, maybe in your wider family or in your work life, just so that you aren't in for a terrible shock, to be honest, which actually new parents generally are. But with fostering, obviously, we need that little bit more understanding. So we talk to you about your family setup, your home setup. We visit you in your home, as I say, just for an initial chat, and we take you through the assessment process in that chat as well. And again, if there's any questions or worries you've got, that's a really good opportunity to just talk them through. If you still like to go ahead and we feel that you've got something to offer as foster carers, we invite you to apply then, and that's when the proper assessment really kicks in. Although I would point out that at any point, if you decide actually this isn't for us, this isn't working, or we don't feel comfortable, you can pull out. There's never any obligation, because this has always got to be right for everybody concerned. So when the assessment process starts, it runs along two threads. There are background checks running along one side, and then on the other side you have a social worker visiting you in your home 6 to 8 times, and compiling what is called the Form F report. The Form F is like, this is your life. It absolutely is, and it really charts your experiences of life from childhood, how you saw education, your employment, what's made you the person you are today. And the reason for all of that is really to understand how you are in your family, and what you can bring to children. All the strengths that you can bring, all the experiences, and we don't expect people to have had perfect lives, far from it. Actually we want to see how people have overcome stress, because then they can help children overcome stress. We want to, perhaps see experiences of how you've dealt with loss, because then you can help children deal with loss. So we don't expect perfect lives, none of us have had those, but what the Form F report pulls together is what sense you've made of that, and as I say, what's made you the people you are today, and with all your strengths and all your wondrousness. So that report also looks at your vulnerabilities and perhaps the areas that you might not be as confident in. Not everybody is great with every age of child. Some people love babies, some people love teenagers, and we want to get it right. So that whole assessment helps us to get to know you really well and see what child we might feel is going to really fit well with your family. Because we don't believe in children bouncing around in care. We believe, if it has been decided that children need to remain in foster care, and actually fundamentally we'd like children to remain with their own families, but if that's not possible, if they're remaining in foster care, then we want them to stay put. We want them to stay with the same family and get that stability that all children need in childhood. So we're very much looking at how that match is right to help that happen. So that's the Form F report. So the background checks that run alongside that, if you have children who are at school age, we contact your children's schools and we ask them, are you coming to parents' evening? Are you the kind of parents who support your children's education? We write, if you've worked with children or vulnerable adults at all, we write to your employers to make sure that they feel you're safe people. We do a DBS check, which is the new version of a police check. So that looks at whether you've got any criminal convictions. You can have criminal convictions. It just depends on what they are. Again, as I say, we don't expect people to have lived perfect lives. So if you were a bit naughty when you were younger and you did some things that you might regret now, that doesn't necessarily rule you out from becoming a foster carer. We look at the length of time. We look at what the offence was, what the circumstances were around it. So it doesn't rule you out immediately. You know, in life we make mistakes. And, you know, you're allowed to make mistakes and we're not there to judge. We're just there to see that that's in its box and that that's been dealt with. Obviously, there are some offences that would rule you out immediately, and they would be any offence against a child, for example, and that's obvious. So alongside the DBS, we also undertake a medical, and that's with your own GP. It's just an interview with your GP to look at your general health, your emotional and physical health. And again, we don't expect A1 as if you're going into the army. We know people live their lives managing a variety of health conditions, and now foster carers do. They're no different from that. So there's very little that would rule you out. And again, if any worries or concerns about any of these areas, we suggest you contact us at an early stage and just talk that through and say, I'm a bit worried about that, what about this? And we'll help guide you. So there's the medical, the school checks, the DBS, and we write to the local authorities that you've lived in, because local authorities tend to keep records if there have been any child protection concerns or if there has been any domestic violence. So again, there are obvious reasons why we'd be doing that, and there'd be obvious checks. So and the whole process is very transparent. You know exactly what we're doing, who we're contacting, and why. If you've been married previously and you've had children from a previous relationship, or you've had a very significant relationship, we do a very brief check with previous partners. And this can be a really difficult area because you don't split up with people because you still think they're great. And there can be really difficult circumstances around those splits. So again, we say, just talk to us about the circumstances of that. You know, if there has been real areas of concern, then that's not an area that we go to, you know. If it's just that you didn't get on, then actually we find that previous partners could have a very valid opinion, particularly if there have been children involved. If you do have children from previous relationships, it's nice to be able to talk to them. And sometimes that means we don't have to speak to a previous partner. So it's one of those things that it's different for everybody in every different circumstance, but it's one of those things that we just have to consider. So I think that's all. So as I often say to families when we visit them, you could work for MI5, you're so well checked out. We really try and make sure that you're in the right position, you're in the right position in your life, but it's a two-way process. You have absolute power over whether or not you want to go ahead with your assessment and whether or not it's feeling okay for you. And you see the report that's written at the end. And the final step in the assessment process is that you come to our fostering panel, which is a panel made up of lots of different people from different walks of life, including a foster carer, including someone who's been adopted. And they look at your report and they meet you and they look at the strengths you bring and they just ask any questions that they might want for clarification. And it's something that people worry a little bit about, but they often find it's not as bad as they thought because it's talking about you. You can only be yourself. So when fostering panel finishes, if you're recommended to become a foster carer, that's when the hard work really starts and we start to match you with a child. So good luck as ever. If you'd like to know more, give us a call 01206 299 775, or have a look on our website, or drop us an email at info@easternfosteringservices.com. Thanks for listening. Bye.